Hi, I'm here outside the airport in Munich, and tonight we're flying Oman Air over to Muscat.
Oman, regarded by many as the hidden gem of the Middle East, has itself perhaps a hidden gem of an airline. Resting in the shadows of its behemoth neighbors Qatar and Emirates, the small nation's flag carrier is often overlooked and in turn underbooked. So today we're going to see how this relatively small airline punches comparatively well above its weight. We'll be catching our flight tonight from the Bavarian capital. The third largest city in Germany, Munich is very well served by an extensive rail and metro system, with 2 lines taking you from the city center to the airport some 30 kilometers to the north. Failing that, you can take any variety of the locally grown automobiles on a 30-minute drive up the Autobahn. Munich International Airport is the second largest in the country. Broken up into 2 terminals, there are 3 major concourses. Both terminals have direct connections to various public transit, and the airport has its own mini metro that connects T2 to its satellite. However, we won't be taking that tonight as our flight departed from the main concourse. Our 6-hour hop this evening will see us departing southwest out of Germany. We'll pass over the Balkans, Turkey, and Iran, crossing the contentiously named Gulf right over Dubai and into Muscat, a distance of 3,050 miles.
I love the array of semi-automatic weapons on display in German airports. Not so much the lack of signage telling me where I can go to check in though.
Munich International Airport has welcomed travelers into the Bavarian heartland for over 30 years. The architecture is industrious and functional, yet not inelegant, a reflection of the region's innovative and forward-thinking manufacturing identity. This departure board is a personal highlight for me. If anyone knows where I can buy one, please do hit me up. And I think I can even afford one since I still have both of my kidneys. Somewhere that, to the best of my knowledge, won't accept organs as a form of payment is the World Shop. Located in the check-in hall, this place is a must-visit if airline merchandise and memorabilia is your thing. There are, of course, airplane models for sale, and among other things, you can pick up online orders too. This is also the only store in the world where you can buy the Lufthansa co-branded Rimowa suitcases. Many people have asked me where I got mine. Well, here's your answer. Oman Air's counters are very well hidden 1 level below the main check-in hall. And I will emphasize the well-hidden part since I was beginning to panic that I came to the wrong terminal until I asked an airport staff member. Once I did eventually find it, tucked into this little nook here, the proceedings were quite well organized and proved to be a breeze. There was a separate line for business class passengers and status holders of Oman Air's loyalty program, which is apparently named after a pirate. Past security, Terminal 2 resembled any other major European airport with a selection of mid to high-end shopping and a scattering of other facilities. Surprisingly, Oman has a contract with Lufthansa to use their lounges in Munich. It's surprising because the airline has closer ties to Oneworld and Star Alliance, but I'm also not complaining because Lufthansa's lounges are almost always excellent. In this case, business and first class passengers on Oman were allowed entry into the LH Business Lounge, which is ever so slightly inferior to the Senator lounges, or so that's the idea. But it didn't even matter on this occasion, since the business class lounge was closed anyways, with all the guests corralled into the Senator lounge instead. Instead of having one large lounge, Lufthansa, oh god that is a tongue twister, has opted to go with having multiple smaller spaces, crafting a more relaxed and intimate atmosphere. The food on offer too was homey, nothing fancy, instead coming off as hearty and wholesome. There were plenty of hot options, stews and soups, a salad bar, as well as a choice for dessert. Now, when it comes to alcohol, oh well, there's of course a full bar, open as early as the lounge does. You won't be finding any of that no drinking before 11 AM hypocritical nonsense here. And if you can't be bothered to wait for someone else to serve you your drink, well, there's a whole self-serve area with plenty of spirits and beer and wine. This of course won't be a Bavarian lounge without local beers on tap, and it wouldn't be a German lounge without fresh pretzels. And it also wouldn't be a Lufthansa lounge without an extensive collection of candy. There were shower rooms, which I did not use on this occasion, and a napping room. Now it may look Spartan, but you can ask for pillows and blankets, making it quite comfortable.
Before we continue, I'd like to talk about my experience with therapy and BetterHelp, who I'm happy to say is sponsoring this video. Personally, I've been seeing a therapist ever since my mom passed away 2 years ago, and I like to consider myself as someone who generally has pretty decent mental health. In no small part thanks to my mom, who was a psychiatrist, raising me with good mental health habits. Even then, the first year without her was immensely difficult. Therapy definitely helped, so did the coping mechanisms I learned through it. But even still, it was a very tough year. The first therapist I had was in Los Angeles, but after moving back to Dubai to spend time with my dad, I found it rather difficult to find someone of the same caliber, and that's when I decided to try BetterHelp. They matched me with someone within the same day, and honestly, although they were great, they just weren't the right match for me. Thankfully, the platform allows you to switch to a new therapist anytime you like, which I did, and I have to say, I love my current therapist. We have sessions every week, it's all well done and managed, and definitely beats having to sit in LA traffic. On top of that, the prices are considerably less expensive than a comparable practitioner in California or Dubai. Being someone who still travels quite frequently, it's super convenient to be able to pick different times each week and join sessions from anywhere with an internet connection. BetterHelp has genuinely been a great addition to my life, hence why I'm happy to endorse them. If you think you or someone you know might benefit from online therapy, then consider giving BetterHelp a try. You can use my code for a discount on your first month.
Taking us over to the Omani capital tonight is a 7-year-old Dreamliner Dash 9. The airline has a fleet of 7 of these, along with 2 of the smaller Dash 8 variants, all with the same interior. Boarding began just after the sun had set. The process was straightforward since there weren't many passengers on tonight. As I was a little late to the gate, they were already calling on economy passengers by the time I lined up. The business cabin was only 1/3 occupied, meaning that there was no one sitting next to me, which is always convenient for filming. Oman Air's Dreamliners are outfitted with, depending on the version of the aircraft, 18 or 24 of B/C Aerospace's Apex suites. The name might appear to be cavalier, but they are arguably the best business class seats currently on offer. That assertion comes from the sheer square footage of these suites and the comparatively vast amounts of uninterrupted personal space afforded to the occupant. In spite of the quite literal, straightforward layout of the cabin, the window seats still retain direct all access by virtue of this small corridor. This space that would otherwise fit a whole seat in economy is used just so that the window seat passenger can go to the bathroom, all without disrupting their neighbor. Wild. With that lucky passenger being me, let's have a detailed look at all the features this suite has to offer. Immediately, there's a very real sense of space and privacy. The code hook, for example, is in another time zone. The IFE display, while 17 inches, is also 3 windows away, making it look almost too small. Below that is a small shelf, although I'm not exactly sure what for. Further down, there's a padded bench, which becomes part of the bed when reclined. And beneath that, some storage space that can easily hold a carry-on suitcase. On the inboard side, there's another small shelf that opens up to reveal stowage for the tray table. This monostructure dispatches quite effortlessly and rests on a hinge, so that you may extricate yourself to go execrate. Now, with that image in your head, let's continue by checking out the stowage cubbies. Back here, there's a literature pocket, as well as the IFE remote. On the armrest, there are controls for the lighting, as well as the divider. Down here, you'll find the audio jacks, as well as USB ports. A raisable armrest up here, reading light, and a hook for headphones, I assume. Flipping over to the outboard side, and yes, I was not kidding when I said that you get 3 windows to yourself. The only thing on this side is a simple armrest with a full suite of seat controls. Upon getting in my seat, I was offered a pre-takeoff drink, and I went with this lemon mocktail.
It's pretty good. Also, I'm like sweaty on my forehead. It's because it's really hot in here. Because for some reason, despite being a hardcore Middle Eastern airline, they don't have individual air vents.
As if the crew heard me say that, I was given a hot towel, and I'm happy to report that despite the lack of personal air nozzles, the cabin was kept quite cool throughout the flight.
Alright, so here's to staying sober enough to show you guys the rest of this flight.
I did not, in fact, stay very sober on this flight.
Oh, that's good lemon juice. I'm totally fine with just drinking this for the rest of the flight.
I did not end up drinking that for the rest of the flight. On this relatively short 6-hour flight, I was given an assortment of things. An amenity kit, which we will check out later, noise cancelling headphones, which you don't get to keep by the way, we'll check this out later too, pajamas, incredibly, which you very much get to keep, we'll check this out later, and the menu, which we'll check out, later. In addition to a cold pre-departure drink, the crew also came around offering dates and kahwa. Personally, I'm not a big fan of dates, I know, heresy, but I am a big fan of Arabic coffee.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, they put cardamom in this. Love me some cardamom. Some people drink the bottom. Oh, sorry. Some people don't drink the bottom. You should drink the bottom. That's where all the caffeine is.
Boarding was completed quite expeditiously, and ahead of schedule, we began pushing back. After climbing past 15,000 feet, the seatbelt signs were deluminated, and the crew began what was possibly the most expedient dinner service I've ever witnessed on an airplane. More impressively still, the menu was extensive, with multiple courses and multiple choices for each. Before I had too much time to study the menu properly, the bar service began, with a choice of drinks accompanied with warm nuts. The glassware too weren't your typical miniaturized airline affair, these were full-size champagne flutes. The actual food began with an amuse-bouche, something typically only offered in first class. This multi-ethnic cheese roll was definitely an interesting creation, a kaleidoscope of flavors with a touch of spice.
Lots of taste bud action there.
Next up, appetizers. I went with the seafood option of salmon and scallops. The portions were a little daunting considering that there were still 3 more courses to go, and honestly the presentation could have been a little bit better, but who am I kidding, this was very impressive. Especially considering that it was not done with a tray service, but instead with every piece individually placed on the table, again something commonly found only in first class. The salmon was perhaps a little on the dry side, and maybe even a little cold too, but otherwise the flavors were bright and fresh. As for the scallops, well...
I love scallops, so it's hard to rub me the wrong way with scallops. It's good, it's fresh, it's not frozen.
Next up, there was a soup course featuring a carrot and cumin concoction. Although quite viscous, the soup was surprisingly light, giving off bright, almost fruity summery flavors. A little unexpected, but tasty nonetheless. Along with a breadstick that had both the length and stiffness to serve as a sarissa and Alexander's phalanx, I was also given a separate bread basket, or bowl in this case. I can't comment on their taste as there was no way I could have had room for all this bread. That I had to save for the main course, the black cod and prawns, absolutely drenched in sauce.
You can immediately smell how fishy and almost gamey it is, and I'm sure not everyone would enjoy it, but if you're into it, which I am, it smells really good. It does not hide the seafood flavor at all. It's very fishy, very potent. Again, I don't think everyone will enjoy it, but if you're into it, this is definitely going to hit the spot. It goes really well with the Sauvignon Blanc as well.
In fact, all the wines offered were exceptional on this flight. They range from $20 to $40, but that's hardly a metric to pit against quality. My favorite, the Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, was also the cheapest, but that might just be because I have cheap taste. Speaking of cheap taste, there was a cheese plate on offer, but I opted to skip it and go directly to the ice cream.
I'm not so much impressed by the fresh, fragrant flavors as I am the fact that it's not a frozen ice core, which is how a lot of airlines serve their ice cream, because they just take them straight out of the ice box. Whereas in this case, I'm pretty sure they took them out 30 minutes before they serve it, so it gets down to a soft, palatable consistency. Really good attention to detail, and the flavors are really good too. I love pistachio ice cream, very underrated. This is a shockingly large quantity of port. all of which I intend to finish. Whew. Oh god, I must have gained at least 20 pounds from that meal. And the absurd thing is that they had a cheese course in there, which I opted out of because I don't know how anyone handles that, honestly. I'm not Mikey Chan. I can't eat for 5 humans in one sitting. I wish I could. But I can't. Anyways, I think it's time to check out the bathroom. It just makes sense at this point. Jesus Christ, it smells fantastic in here.
I guess I was expecting there to be more than the stock Boeing bathroom. I don't know, maybe it's because the last 3 videos were all on A350s, so I'm just getting dented by well-designed airplane labs. Perhaps I'm also letting my impression of Oman Air thus far cloud my expectations. With that said, Oman didn't skimp out on the amenity front. There was a subjectively fantastic smelling hand cream from local brand Amouage. I actually ended up buying some of this fragrance during my time in the country. They also had dental kits, and a bidet on the toilet. Now, this is something you can spec out with a Boeing factory, just like choosing extras on a car. The difference is, this one feature will cost you as much as a car. While we're here in the bathroom, let's take a look at the provided pajamas and slippers. Again, this is an amenity often only found in first class. The male version came in this dark coffee burgundy color, while the female was a lighter gray. It was 100% cotton, and hence very comfortable and decently breathable. As for looks, well, I'll let you judge. Coming back to my seat, let's continue with the goodie bag rundown with the amenity kit. I'm not gonna lie, the bag was very ugly, but the contents, well, they weren't as ugly. There were your usual suspects, along with a hairbrush/comb and a full tube of lip balm, a thoughtful touch for the Arabian deserts. Let's also check out the headphones, which came in this luxurious cloth pouch. The headphones themselves were less luxurious and more hard plastic, but they fit okay and sounded even more okay. Which brings us neatly onto the in-flight entertainment. The display is quite bright and also a touchscreen, although I don't know what for. You'd have to be a human sloth to be able to reach it. For those of us who aren't Pete Davidson, we can instead use the remote to navigate the media library or control the screen directly. The remote itself also doubles as a secondary screen you can keep the in-flight maps running on, a handy way to keep an eye on the progress of your flight. As for the content itself, well, it's very much lacking. Even tourists who are flying Oman for the first time will probably run out of stuff to watch by the return flight. The bulk of the content was in English, but there still wasn't much, a few Hollywood movies and a scattering of other media that would elicit less interest than this video would to a Tibetan monk. There were some Arabic TV shows, but not nearly enough dramas depicting balding middle-aged men falling in love with supermodels to keep all the aunties occupied throughout the flight. I ended up staring at the route map for a while in lieu of outboard cameras, and then having realized that I'm not that zealous of an aviation enthusiast, decided to go get ready for bed. In the 2 minutes it took to brush my teeth, don't tell my dentist otherwise, the crew managed to make my bed. I didn't even ask them or tell them, they just somehow knew. Equally impressive was the bedding. There was a mattress topper, a sheet, duvet, and 2 generously sized pillows, and not to mention the bed itself. 8 feet or 2.4 meters long, this bed was absolutely incredible.
This is crazy. This is a crazy amount of space. Wow. You could uncomfortably fit 2 people in this bed. Like, they would physically fit, but it wouldn't be the best of times. So with that in mind, for one person, this is sumptuous.
Sure, Qatar might have wider beds and queue suites, but the unrestricted legroom here is not something that can be rivaled by many other airlines. As for privacy, the middle divider, albeit slow to erect, does offer a substantial amount of seclusion, meaning you won't find your butt crack on ignominious display to the rest of the cabin. With that peace of mind, it's almost too easy to fall asleep. Oman Airlines. Let's start with the service. I'm immensely lucky in being able to say that I've visited most of the countries in the world and can attest that people are generally friendly. But in Oman, the warmth you feel is on another level. I'm also lucky enough to have a few Omani friends in Riyadh and Dubai. Rain, shine, or 3 a.m., these are the sort of guys who will drop everything and show up if you need them. Incredibly dependable, absolutely loyal, and generous to the point of borderline psychotic. What I'm getting at is that the crew on this flight, the staff in Muscat, and even the check-in agents back in Munich embody this attitude. It's genuinely the best part of Omani culture, and I'm very glad the airline embodies this well. Now, do I think that this business product has any business rivaling the likes of Emirates, Qatar, and Etihad? Well, absolutely. All that, and it maintains a very genuine boutique charm. I know that they're trying to aggressively gain market share, but they're doing it in the best way possible, by having stupidly good service and putting their best foot forward. I hope I was able to showcase that in this video. I wasn't invited to be on this flight, I didn't ask ahead to film on board either, I just kinda showed up and hoped for the best, and boy was I not disappointed. There were, of course, some shortcomings. Funnily enough, there was no breakfast served, but I'm not gonna fault them that much for it. There's no way anyone was hungry after that dinner. The Wi-Fi on this flight, which I paid $30 for, wasn't very reliable, often having slow connections and at times dropping out completely for great lengths of time, something that for many is quite unacceptable in 2024. But as a whole, I am blown away with this airline. I've already booked a trip back to Dubai with them, even if it means detouring through Europe. Oh, and if you ever get the chance, go visit Oman. It's incredibly safe and definitely lives up to its reputation of being the hidden gem of the Middle East. Alright, we're not going to end the video just yet, because there is one more thing I want to show you. The Oman Air First and Business Lounge here in Muscat. I had a 2-day layover in the country before catching my next flight to Dubai. On my way out, I got to check out this abjectly opulent facility. To our modern eyes, jaded by 2 decades of minimalist propaganda, this decadent display of decorative dodecagons may deceive us into thinking it dowdy, dated, or even dull. But I have to remind you that this is the land of frankincense and myrrh, where obsessive opulence is just ordinary. So we'll take our poverty-plagued predispositions and promptly put them in our posterior. You can probably tell that I'm hangry, so let's go check out the food situation. Breakfast was served during my time in the lounge. For that, they had a pretty decent spread of hot and cold items. This lounge hosted both business and first class passengers, but as far as I can tell, there was no differentiation between the two. The food was definitely up to business class standards, but perhaps fell short of what people would expect from a first class lounge. The presentation could have used some work, but otherwise all the food tasted like it was freshly made. This being 8 a.m., the lounge was also surprisingly empty. Let's walk you through some more amenities, starting with the bar. Alcohol is very much legal in Oman, but sadly, unlike the one in Munich, this bar does not open until 11 a.m. Curiously, there was a cigar room that was open, but I'm assuming you have to bring your own cigars. A small workstation was set up behind the help desks, with iMacs and printers offering some last-minute business solutions. The lounge also had half a dozen shower rooms, a spa ran by the Shangri-La, this informal gathering space, and next door, a storage space for your offspring. These little nap rooms were dotted around the quieter areas, and for longer transits, you can check into a sleeping room free of charge. I did not have a long wait for my flight, but the lounge manager is a fan of the channel, so he was happy to give me one to check out. Overall, this facility was a very pretty and relaxing place to spend a few hours. It's definitely up there as a business lounge, but passengers who paid for first class might be slightly underwhelmed. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys next time, but until then, safe travels.